I'm your host, Lucia Cordero, and this is where we get real about life with celiac disease. Each week, I'll share practical gluten-free tips, wellness hacks, and honest conversations about the emotional side of living with an autoimmune condition. Think of this as your weekly mix of support, relatability, and inspiration to help you not just survive, but thrive with celiac. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder, I'm not a medical professional. Everything I share is based on my own experience living with celiac disease. This podcast is not medical advice, so please always consult your doctor about your own health. Welcome back to the Celiac Diaries podcast. I'm your host, Lucia Cordero, and we have Staci with us here today from the Celiac Shift.
Hi everyone.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited that you're here.
We're so excited to be here.
Yes, your son Jude is also in the studio with us behind the scenes right now.
Yes.
Hi. And you are a celiac coach and mentor. You have a son, Jude, with celiac disease for the past 4 years, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Amazing. And I'm so excited to have you on because, you know, I've had a few different types of people on the podcast so far, but I haven't had the whole parent conversation yet on the pod.
Right.
And it's such an important combo. Yeah.
Definitely. It's a very different perspective probably than the other people who you've interviewed.
Yeah. You're such a great resource with all of the work and advocacy that you do. It's so inspiring. I love your page. So
thank you. Are we allowed to say how much we love your podcast?
Oh, well, that's sweet.
Because we love your podcast. And we find that you ask really valuable, good questions for our community. And we're very grateful for that. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we're going to get into all of that. First up, we have some segments on the pod. So gluten-free fave of the week. I know that, you know, you don't have celiac disease yourself, but I'm sure you're eating and trying all the gluten-free foods. So
yes.
Do you have a favorite lately?
Yes, actually the Bub's banana bread.
Oh, okay.
On a big, so I do eat primarily gluten-free alongside with Jude. I've actually eaten gluten-free. I have my own stomach issues for many years, but Bub's banana bread is really hitting home these days.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Bub's is super popular on the podcast, but I haven't heard of the banana bread yet. Usually people go on about the cinnamon roll, which I've yet to try.
Cinnamon roll is delicious.
Okay.
But I think you should really look into the banana bread. It's under the radar still.
An underrated menu item.
Yeah, okay. I think so, for sure.
Amazing. I'll have to try that. Okay, next up we have our news of the week. Yeah. So I thought this one was interesting because it's all about screening for type 1 diabetes and celiac disease earlier in children. So there's a new screening initiative that aims to detect type 1 diabetes and celiac disease earlier in children. This is, you know, a recent effort by the American Medical Association with a report on Sanford Health's Pledge study, which basically just like integrates this screening into routine pediatric care. So, I mean, you know, testing for celiac disease, I think every year it becomes a bit more common and heard about through awareness, but
for sure.
It's one of those things where it isn't one of the routine tests that you get unless you go for issues. Yeah.
Unfortunately, a lot of the people that I interact with go years and years and years. Their children struggle and have not the most common symptoms, and because they're not a stomach ache or a lack of growth, they have other symptoms, be it headaches, anxiety, black under their eyes. They go undetected. So I think it is very important that all pediatricians do early screenings for diabetes and for celiac disease because so many individuals struggle for such an unnecessarily long time.
Exactly, yeah. And it's one of those things like it's relatively non-invasive to test.
Correct.
So you might as well do that and potentially save years of symptoms without answers.
Correct. Even for siblings of children who have celiac disease, I always recommend because siblings, if your sibling has celiac disease, you're much more likely to have it. Right. So for my other children, for their routine blood work, I always have them take a vial to check for diabetes and celiac disease.
That's so smart, yeah.
But I have to ask.
Right. Yeah. You have to like advocate for that.
Correct.
Really, yeah.
Which should be reversed. It should be an automatic for all kids.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I want to go back in time to 4 years ago, right?
Yeah.
When Jude was diagnosed with celiac disease. He was 7, correct?
He was 7 turning 8.
Okay, gotcha. So what was that experience like on a more personal note? Like what led you to taking him to the doctor in the first place? And had you even heard of celiac disease before this?
Great question. So the answer is we had heard of celiac disease. We have a host of other autoimmune diseases in our family. So we were familiar with celiac disease, not all the nuances, but the term. Jude had been on a journey where he was seeing an endocrinologist and a pediatrician gastro for many years, and he would yin and yang between the two of them.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, he had been tested every year for celiac disease since he was 4.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It was always negative, but he had symptoms. He had lack of growth. He had debilitating headaches, debilitating stomach aches, very puffy black bags under his eyes, and he got COVID. He had gotten tested for celiac disease. It was negative. He got COVID. He was really getting worse and worse. Got tested right after COVID for celiac disease, and it showed up positive.
Wow. Okay.
So it was definitely, I think, when your child gets diagnosed, listen, nobody even wants their child to have a cold, right?
Right, yeah.
So when your child gets diagnosed with a lifelong autoimmune disease, you go through what I describe as a natural grieving process. But for us personally, there was a relief element.
Yeah.
Because I think that he wasn't feeling well, and we really wanted answers as to why he was chronically feeling so ill. So it was a mixed feeling. We were devastated and relieved all at the same time.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense. I think that that's just like the complexity of emotions that come with any sort of diagnosis, whether it's for your child or for yourself. Yeah, there's that relief of like, okay, I finally know what this is. Right. But then it's also like, okay, but now I actually have to have this diet for the rest of my life. And like, this is so confusing. It's a lot to take in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. For sure. There was a lot of emotions.
So what would you say to a parent who has a child like recently diagnosed with celiac? Like, what was like the first thing that you did that you think was really helpful to process like both sides of those feelings?
Well, I think it's very important to acknowledge both sides, that you can feel a relief that help and hope is coming, and also give yourself grace that you are allowed to sort of grieve the life you envisioned for your child. I would just say try to not take everything on at once. I think as parents, innately, we want to make everything right for our kids. And that causes us, when our child gets diagnosed with any disease, to want to conquer everything immediately because we're looking really for solutions to how to best help our kid. And I think my best piece of advice would be take it one step at a time, because if you take on too much, it's incredibly overwhelming and you won't be able to really help your child and process emotionally if you have too much on your plate.
Yeah, totally. That's great advice. I'm curious because I know there's so many different ways that you could go about it. And it sounds like Jude was like going to different doctors, so was probably aware that, you know, there were things that he was being tested for. But how did you, like, once you got that diagnosis, do you remember like where you were, like getting the call from the doctor?
Yes.
And how did you?
I remember exactly where I was standing.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Where were you?
So I was actually in Florida.
Okay.
We have a lot of family that lives in Florida, so we were visiting, and the doctor called, which is the experience I hear from a lot of people, and was just like, oh, and by the way, the blood work came back, and it looks like he has celiac disease. There wasn't a lot of coddling and coodling and, you know, a big lead up. Yeah. And I think naturally you go into that, wait, what? You know, mind frame. And then you take a minute to digest it. I had a friend at the time whose child had celiac disease, and another friend who has celiac disease. Okay. So I immediately got on the phone with them, which I think that is one of the best things you could do, is connect with other individuals who have been down this road before.
Totally, yeah. Because
it's very encouraging to hear that, as overwhelming as it is in the moment, you're going to be okay, and your child's going to be okay, and you know.
And like it's a road ahead, but you'll figure everything out.
For sure.
Just having that optimism about it is
for
important.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think it's really important because initially you're so sad for your kid and for your family unit as a whole, and you're scared and you're worried. But when you hear someone say like, it's going to be fine, you got this, you know, you'll get a new normal, and just hearing those words of encouragement, I think help you get through that initial blow.
Totally. And then like once you digested the information, how did you go about telling him, Jude, that he had celiac? Yeah.
So with Jude, we were told that he 99.9% had celiac disease, but still his doctor wanted him to go for an endoscopy to confirm.
Right, yeah.
So we told him that he was, at this point he had turned 8, and we felt that he was old enough to have a conversation, that he was going in for an endoscopy because we think he might have a food that he's allergic to that was making him feel sick.
Okay, yeah.
And then leading up to the endoscopy, he actually started asking us more questions.
Okay.
Which I think most parents don't plan for. You think you're in control and in the driver's seat, but you're dealing with another, with another human.
Yeah, yeah.
So he started asking us more questions, and before he went in for his endoscopy, we said, we think you have something called celiac. We named what it was. We think you have something called celiac disease. And you know what? If we found out you had it, we would be relieved because we would have answers as to why you weren't feeling well. And we would have a whole path forward of how you would feel better. And so we went in for his endoscopy. And when he woke up, the doctor came out and was like, it's basically conclusive. I have to wait for the biopsy. And when he woke up, he said, do I have it? And we said, it looks like you have it. And he said, so what changes? And we said, well, we're going to make some changes to your diet, and we're going to go on a lot of adventures, and we're going to try a lot of new foods, and because you can have something called gluten. And I think something that is so important is not dumping a whole lot of negatives on a child. When you're telling them that they have this diagnosis, it's really important to be, once they're a certain age, transparent, but also add in all of the joy and things that they can still really appreciate while having this disease.
Yeah, I love that perspective. And I think it's so like admirable that you had that approach. And I'm wondering, were you a life coach or in that space before you became celiac specific? Like, how were you, so in tune with like knowing how to like approach that conversation in that sort of framework, if that makes sense?
So my undergraduate is in social work.
Okay.
But my master's degree is in education.
Okay, yeah.
And I'm actually 3 credits shy of my behavioral degree.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I'm of the mindset of a lot of positive reinforcement and positive thinking prior to becoming a life coach.
Okay.
So I think my behavioral background really helped me understand that telling a kid that their entire life is about to change and how much they're about to lose, how it's permanent, it's so important to focus on the positives because that's really a lot for a child to bear.
Totally. And for, a parent whose child is newly diagnosed, what types of conversations were you having like with your husband at the time that might be helpful for someone listening to, talk about that within the family?
Right. That's a great question. So I think that when your child has celiac disease, the whole family is involved. In my experience, generally one parent, is the driver of the ship.
Yeah.
So even though we were both super involved in researching and, finding out how we can best protect him, I think I really took on a lot of the research component and then shared it with my husband.
Okay, yeah.
Who definitely, was on board and, wanted to learn as much as he can. But in most cases, a lot of the responsibility could fall on one parent. But we discussed as a family unit how we were going to go about it. You decide in that moment, your decision's not permanent, but how you're going to run your household. If it's going to be a mixed household, if it's going to be an entirely gluten-free household. And we came to an agreement on what we felt like was best for our entire family unit.
Totally, yeah. How do you run your household?
So we have a mixed household.
Okay, gotcha.
Primarily, my other 2 children like eating gluten-free.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because like I said, prior to Jude's diagnosis, I ate gluten-free.
Okay, so it's natural to have that
It was very
yeah.
natural to have a lot of gluten-free foods around us.
Mm-hmm.
We mostly have a gluten-free household. However, there are certain foods that are my other children's favorite foods that they still do eat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And something we have done is in our family unit, it started out when Jude was first diagnosed that we were all really conscious, like eat gluten, wash your hands. Now, as Jude's gotten older, we have shifted the responsibility to Jude that before Jude eats, he's responsible to wash his hands.
Yeah.
We do have separate toasters.
Okay, yeah.
And other, protocols in our kitchen that are entirely safe for Jude. But we operate in a mixed household. And when our kids have kids over, we order in regular pizza and gluten-free pizza.
Yeah. Okay, totally. Cool.
Yeah, that's just what works best for our house.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. And, you mentioned you were the one doing like a ton of research about celiac disease. And now I know you're such a great resource for parents to go to or anyone with celiac.
Thank you.
And you've, built all this up over the past few years. Where did you go at the time 4 years ago to do more research? Like, how did you seek out all of this information?
So I went to Google,
okay,
which is not the most accurate, but I went to Google. I went to people, like I said, who I knew who had celiac disease. And I went online to Facebook groups and Instagram and other places, which my husband's still such a big follower of yours, and other people to really learn information.
And was there anything like when you were first making those like lifestyle changes that you look back on and you're like, oh, I totally, didn't know about this, or I made this mistake, that you kind of tell parents that you work with like very early on that you learned from?
Yes, I think when Jude was first diagnosed, I'll never forget, my cousin came to visit me with her children, and we had agreed already that it was going to be a mixed household. But I was so overwhelmed and neurotic about touching all the handles in the house and the crumbs on the table, and even down to the faucet handles. If you ate gluten and then touched the faucet handles, and then I touched the faucet handles, but I was serving Jude's food, I would tell myself, take a deep breath.
Yeah.
It's okay. I think you can get really neurotic and start second guessing yourself to the point where it's almost debilitating, honestly.
Yeah.
That I took it to such an extreme that I would tell myself, like, rein it in a little bit.
Totally, yeah. And I recently had a dietitian on the podcast, and I was asking her about like the utensils that are going viral, and there's a lot of fear in the celiac community, which is so understandable because it can be, scary and anxiety inducing to like try and understand what you can eat. But she was kind of like, I honestly, like when I work with my patients, I tell them the same thing, just to breathe. And like, there's some things on the internet that like might be scaring you, but it's really like, it's nothing that you actually do need to be worried about with celiac disease.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I think that's the thing. It's why I felt so passionately, honestly, about becoming a life coach, because I think you hear so many opinions that are absolute from online.
Right, yeah.
You absolutely need to have 100% gluten-free household to be safe. Or you absolutely should have a mixed household because your kid needs to learn to deal with gluten, And I don't love those absolutes. I think that it's fair to say there's so many different ways that you can keep yourself or your child safe.
Totally, yeah.
That the misconceptions or that fear could be incredibly debilitating in the beginning.
Totally. And I think any route that you choose to go, like having a child with celiac growing up in a mixed kitchen household, I think in some ways that, like teaches them how to be able to think about things in a kitchen versus if it's 100% gluten-free. I mean, obviously there could be merit to that as well, but then like they just don't think about it at all. And then maybe when they go to college, they're like, oh, not everything is gluten-free. Like, how am I supposed to deal with this?
Right.
So,
Yeah. It's a true battle in your mind because You want your home to be your child's safe place.
Right. Yeah.
And it's one of the places you can control for full inclusion. Because you can't control the other places. They're not always going to have a donut on the sideline, right?
Yeah.
In birthday parties, they are going to eat differently. So I totally understand parents want for their house to be the one safe haven almost for their kids. But I agree with you that when children go out in the real world, they really need, if they have roommates, they really need to learn to take the responsibility of how to live in an environment that is, you know, not 100% safe for them at all times.
Yeah, and you don't want to, you know, not have the experience of ever having roommates because you have celiac disease.
Exactly.
That's something that you want to experience.
Exactly.
Or like one day if they're like moving in with a partner that doesn't have celiac disease and balancing that. Like there's so much to prepare for and think about long term. So.
Right, definitely.
Yeah.
I also early on realized that there wasn't that much research around pediatric celiac disease. Specifically, we live on Long Island and our local health system, Northwell, has an incredible pediatric gastro who really wanted to build up a celiac for disease center on Long Island.
Oh, wow.
So I started a charity early on called Community for Celiac.
Yeah.
And this doctor, Dr. Lou, she has really implemented that when parents get diagnosed, she wants them to have a good resource center to go to.
Yeah, totally. That's
so
important.
There's nutritionists, social workers, and a lot of other people that are there now, which for other individuals is a very good resource for them to have if their child gets diagnosed, if their local hospital system has any sort of nutritionist or mental health providers.
Yeah, that's incredible because I think I hear a lot on comments on the podcast like, oh, I just went gluten-free. I don't really know too much about cross-contamination. And, you know, it can depend on where you live and what doctor you go to and what information they give you. And obviously, we're so blessed to live in the age of the internet where we can seek out all of these other resources. But, you know, sometimes someone might not be like as motivated or really like understanding the gravity of needing to learn more about it. So that's just why awareness is so important, and investment in resources like that is incredible.
Yeah, that I'm very, very passionate about that because I think all too many of us are told just go gluten-free.
Right, exactly.
And you have no blueprint. But if you can fall back on your hospital system or doctors, that could be a big resource for people.
Totally, yeah. Okay, so Jude was diagnosed 4 years ago. And then when did you start? Obviously, you became passionate about it for him and for your family. When did you start to like share your resources that you learned from it online and create the Celiac Shift?
So I first started with Community for Celiac.
Okay.
I partnered one of my very good friends has had celiac. She was one of the, an OG.
Yeah.
She's had it for almost 20 years.
Okay.
And we partnered to form Community for Celiac. And through that, I got more involved with the celiac community. And when I started meeting people, I heard a lot of, your child has celiac, goodbye and good luck. And I said to myself, gee, this isn't right.
Yeah.
These parents really are left hanging.
Yeah.
So I started getting connected through people that if your child got diagnosed with celiac disease, call Staci.
Yeah.
And I was intaking so many calls of parents whose children had first been diagnosed. I said, gee, there's a real need for this. And it led me to the idea you should become a life coach. And that way you can help other families and parents. And even I work with a lot of individuals who have celiac disease. And I'm just on a mission.
Yeah.
It's my personality anyway, just, on a mission.
Yeah, I love that. And
thank you.
One of the posts that I saw that you posted recently, it was a video of Jude saying, like, unprompted, I think y'all were in the car or something.
Yes.
You were talking about like something gluten-free. And he just goes, celiac disease is not a negative. And I just thought that was so special.
Thank you.
And such a great thing for a child to say about their, condition that they have, because it's not a negative. And I think that's just like really speaks to the power of like the mind shift work. And
Thank you. It is true that your mind is what you tell it is, right? And I do work all the time with Jude to help him have that mentality.
Right.
It was a real parenting win. You don't get wins all the time as a parent.
Yeah.
But that moment showed me, wow, this is real, because he does feel that this isn't a negative. Of course, he's a typical child, so there's times that would just love to eat a piece of pizza,
Totally,
on the go and have flexibility. But there's so much good around his diagnosis, and we have so much fun. And we just make it an adventure, you know? And I just think it's brought a lot of joy into all of our lives to be able to experience life from a side you didn't plan, but nonetheless a great side.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it's so important to be intentional about that as a parent. I mean, I'm not a parent, but just like thinking about, the future potentially, and maybe having a child that has celiac disease, who knows what will happen. What are like examples of things maybe that you would say, or like how you would frame things beyond just like the initial diagnosis, but just throughout everyday life if you're speaking to a parent that also has a child with celiac?
That's great. That's a great question. I always say, instead of saying, for example, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can say, would you like this or that? You could try to eliminate the can't. I think that one of the best things you can do is, number one, offer kids choices. Because often this disease makes you feel like you're really powerless because there's so much you can't already that exists. So number one, offer choices. Number two, always follow up with a positive. So for example, you can't have this, but you can have this. Right now, that donut doesn't make our body feel good. That donut wouldn't make you feel safe. But this donut is all yours. You want vanilla or strawberry. This will make your body feel good. And constantly reframing it into, instead of you can't, what would make your body feel good? What works for your body? When you reframe that language and you change the language, I think it makes children feel like they're more in control. And that's really powerful.
Totally. And I think that's even transferable to an adult diagnosed with celiac
for
disease.
sure.
And how you talk to yourself about it, affects your mindset too. So it's applicable to anyone, I think.
The minute you start feeling like, I can't have this, or I wish I could just go have that, or look at everyone else, you could glorify anything in your mind, right?
Exactly.
But if you can start telling yourself, but look at all the things I can have, and look at all the adventures I could go on, and something else that I think is huge for every individual, I have allergies, for every individual that has any sort of dietary restrictions, is when you go to events, particularly for kids' birthday parties, we've taken the food out of the birthday party, meaning we're not waiting till the end for the pizza and the cake. That's just there.
Right.
We're going to the birthday party for the fun of the party.
Right, yeah.
Or we're going to watch the Knicks play. Madison Square Garden happens to have amazing gluten-free food, but
right, yeah.
You get the gist that the event is the event. Food is just an addition to the event.
Totally. It's just the icing on the cake.
For sure.
Or something that's like a bonus. Like I like to think of that whenever even I go to like a restaurant with friends. Like, I mean, if I was just eating to eat, I could eat at my apartment. I'm going to the restaurant with friends to connect with my friends, be out in an atmosphere, and like the food is just a bonus. So I'm not going to get like, obviously I'm going to eat something that's safe, but I'm not going to get all in my head about like, oh, but like my friends are eating this and like I wish I could eat that. When you focus on the other aspects of an event, and I think like in American culture, it is very centered on food. So it is kind of a mindset shift to think about an event like a birthday party, not about the cake at the end, but more about the celebration of the 2 hours before the cake, which is the best part once you are able to think about it that way.
Yeah, I actually think when you're able to do that, you enjoy what you're doing so much more. I agree with you. I think as a culture, we're so set up around food.
Yeah.
And I get it. There are a lot of family traditions and a lot of different religions and cultures where food is so meaningful and impactful, right? But I also think that when you are forced to not focus on that, you find so much joy in these events that you really didn't focus on before going.
Exactly. Yeah. Like even with Thanksgiving or Christmas or different holidays, like when you think of that, a lot of times you think of food, especially Thanksgiving.
Right.
Which can be overwhelming, of course, with someone with celiac, especially if it's some of your first times navigating that and like with family and everything. But when you go into Thanksgiving with the mindset of like, oh, I'm here to, connect with my family that I haven't gotten to catch up with recently, or, just focus on like the love of the holiday.
Right, for sure. And I think
fun.
something that's really important about a holiday like Thanksgiving is the planning.
Mm-hmm.
The planning for yourself or your child, if you have celiac disease, and your communication. Because I worked with a lot of individuals this past year who had disappointing experiences.
Oh, okay.
But there's so much more you can plan for and prep that if you put the focus before the holiday, you can enjoy the holiday itself more.
Right. That makes so much sense because you're not at the holiday then worried about like, oh, I don't have a safe option here. Like, what can I eat? And then you're hungry, and then you're not able to connect with the people that you're there to see. You're focused on something else. So the preparation is really key. And I think, sometimes, and it makes sense, like it can be an exhausting aspect of celiac disease, all the planning, but in so many ways, it's so much better than the alternative of feeling exhausted like the day of, or, feeling confused or overwhelmed in the moment. It's, in my experience, it's always been better to just plan ahead of time. So you have that peace of mind going in.
Do you plan ahead of time for Thanksgiving?
Well, okay, so I'm still go like to like my mom and my parents and family for Thanksgiving.
Okay,
so
which is great.
Usually my mom plans ahead for me, which is nice.
That's why moms and dads have a lot of the pressure on them.
Exactly,
once you're a parent, you're always a parent.
Exactly, even when your daughter's 26.
I call my mom every day, and I'm 40.
Yeah.
So, yes, planning is huge. And I think not comparing is also something that's a really valuable thing. While we've mentioned how amazing all these resources are and the internet, and even my page, I get all the time, you look so happy, it's so glorified. I think you have to, and people say about Thanksgiving, for example, every other family plans for their child or their adolescent that has, or their adult child that has celiac disease. My family won't cook for me. And I think taking that comparison out is also a huge way to change your mind, because it's not you against everyone else.
Totally,
It's you preparing for you.
Exactly. And there's so many different, factors and situations that go into things. It's like a child could, compare to another child's household. Because I remember like growing up and then meeting other people with celiac, and they'd be like, oh, my house is entirely gluten-free. I'd be like, oh, well, that's not how my family does it. And it's like, you can get in that mentality of like, well, why didn't my parents do that for me? But it's like, there's obviously so many factors that lead to decisions like that. And, one family situation is so different from another family's. And like, at the end of the day, it's your individual journey, and that experience shapes you into who you are. And then you learn different things from it. And then you can connect with other people that had a different experience. But that's the beauty of it. It's not.
That is the beauty.
Or else we'd all just be living the same life.
Exactly. And it also just teaches you how to be resilient.
Yeah.
I think I speak about this a lot, but I think we're raising a generation with the internet and social media where things are just so fast paced for these kids. They want something, they tell you to order it off Amazon. There's really a lack of patience and resilience in these children built in the way that this generation is. That one of the greatest gifts for the children who have any autoimmune disease but celiac is that they learn to be resilient. They learn how to deal with disappointment. They learn how to deal that other people around them have things and they don't.
Right, yeah.
And that's huge.
Totally, yeah. Especially learning that so early. It's such an invaluable life lesson. Yeah.
It prepares them for what life is, which has a lot of highs and lows and goods and bad and a lot of disappointment. And it's good for them to learn that early on.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I like that perspective versus, like there's only so many things you can't like shelter your child from absolutely everything. They got to experience life. And celiac is one of those things that kind of gets them right into that, because it is how they have to be. Yeah,
definitely.
I know you've shared videos of Jude advocating for himself at restaurants and ordering. So how did you go about encouraging him to start doing that for himself?
Yeah, I feel very passionately about that. I think there's so many different ways depending on the age of your child that you can go about that. But first off, I always say start practicing at home and then gradually build up, if your child can, to them whispering to you their order in a restaurant, and then ultimately them ordering directly, I think that involves them watching you model that. So when Jude was first diagnosed, there was a lot of times I sat down, and even if we were in a restaurant that I knew was safe for him, I went through the scripts.
Yeah.
So I modeled. And when I was done modeling, I would say, did you hear how I ordered? Did you see how I double checked? And first you modeled, then you teach a little at home, then they practice at home, then they can practice out. And ultimately the goal is to have them be able to really use their knowledge and ability to advocate for themselves without you, because they're only young for a very brief period of time. And then, Jude's already in middle school. There's a lot of times I'm not with him.
Right.
When he's ordering, and knowing that he's empowered and that he has the tools to advocate for himself is one of those measures that when you have a child who has celiac disease, if you have that in place, your anxiety gets significantly reduced.
Totally, because you trust that he has the tools when he's on his own to advocate for himself and make sure he's eating the right things.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Now, teenage years, when they start rebelling a little, that's a whole nother story. But
I know. I was definitely a teenager that liked to rebel with a gluten-free diet. So it's an interesting thing.
When we're offline, you could prepare me of how to handle that stage.
Yeah. Definitely. Okay, I saw you post about this before, and this is something that I've been interested in learning more about. So I wanted to get your take on it and how you have used it with school and everything. So for our listeners that might not know, celiac disease is recognized as a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act, which basically, means that ADA protections can apply to public spaces like event venues, travel, camps, and, many more places, especially that, like a lot of kids might be going to. An example of how ADA can protect someone with celiac is that you might be allowed to bring outside food into a venue that usually would prohibit it. Yeah, I'm curious how this is something that you've been able to use to help advocate for Jude, either at school or elsewhere.
Okay, so at school, any child in the United States of America who's in a public school is legally entitled to have a 504 health plan. That's their legal right. However, you must have a formal diagnosis.
Okay.
I think that this is sometimes the step that people are missing and why they run into a problem. You need to have a certified doctor write that you have celiac disease, and that's a letter that you would have to send to your school system.
Okay.
To get the process going.
Okay.
For 504 accommodations.
Okay. And could you explain what 504 accommodations is?
Sure. So a 504 health plan essentially means that your child is protected in school to have certain rights that accommodate their disability.
Okay.
Or their disease. In Jude's case, obviously, it's celiac disease.
Right.
And an example of that would look like his stomach's sometimes bad from celiac disease, right? So if he's taking a timed test, I want him to have the ability to stop the clock to use the bathroom and then be able to come back and finish his test because his disease is impairing his ability to take that test. Or if they're serving food, he's really legally entitled to get gluten-free food. He can't be discriminated against. So, for example, in our district, our school district, they didn't have a gluten-free Safe for Celiac menu. But once I showed them his papers and got him a 504, I fought the district, and every day he's served, the same as the other children, a Safe for Celiac meal. Other accommodations when they're younger are wiping the desk down, making sure they wash their hands, all protocols to keep them safe within the school setting, and they're legally binding.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. A lot of people say, the school said they'll give me just a health plan. That is not, a 504 document is a legally binding document. It's very important to get that, to keep your children safe.
Yeah, and I think so many parents or just people in general don't know about that or don't think it's something that's like possible or something that would be legally protected. I remember when I was in middle school and we would go on field trips, they didn't have like a gluten-free option for like the sack lunch that they would give out. So I remember just having like a sandwich and then just like eating the meat in the middle of it because like I didn't know any different as a
of
child.
Of course.
But that's like just so important for parents to know that that's something that can be accommodated for in schools.
Yes.
Yeah.
And private schools are held to different standards. But something I always tell parents is don't stop. Don't stop. Society will try to take advantage of you as much as they can, but you're your child's voice and you're the best advocate for them. And something else that I hear often is parents say, oh, my kid they're asymptomatic. There's no needs. There would be no need for it. You never know what's going to happen. You can ingest gluten 10 times and have zero reaction. And on the 11th time, your body reacts.
Right. Or even just the long-term effects of it. Like even if you're asymptomatic, you are still damaging your body at the end of the day. Yeah.
So you want to, 504s, there's a protocol that goes through the school psychologist that you have to go through in order to get it. So you want to have it in place just in case.
Totally.
There's no downside. I think people feel that if they get their child a 504, there's like a stigma or they're labeled.
Yeah.
And I think what they don't realize is that label, you're forgoing protecting your child's right, being worried over a label that really is not significant.
Exactly. Yeah, totally. That's a good mindset to have about it. I'm curious too, have you been able to get accommodations in terms of, I saw like TSA and things like that? Is that something that's been needed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's something that I was kind of unaware of. I never have brought food through security, and I know, it might be different documentation for a child, but are you aware of is there documentation that you show TSA to bring the food through, or how does that work?
So it is my understanding that you legally do not have to show that you have celiac disease, but I always do carry a note with me because I figure, what's the difference? To me, if I show them proof or not proof.
Totally, yeah.
I always carry a doctor's note with me. I've seen on the internet people make cards. It doesn't matter. Anyone could bring any doctor's note. Anyone could bring any cards. At the end of the day, it's really about the words you use and the knowledge you have. So I know that Jude is legally allowed to bring food to a venue. I know that. Once you're empowered, there's no stopping. If the security stops you, ask for the manager. If the manager stops you, you keep going up the chain until you accomplish what you need to accomplish to keep yourself or your child safe.
So if you're going to a sporting event, for example, you could bring your own food to a place like that as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And is that typically what you like to do, or?
So I'm a big feed before person.
Okay, gotcha.
I would have no problem. Since I'm little, everyone laughs. My bag is full of snacks. I'm someone that likes to eat all the time. Like I said, I have dietary restrictions, so I always have food on me or with me. So it really was I was just carrying a little extra once Jude got diagnosed.
Yeah.
But I always eat before in general, and then I bring food as if I'm going to be stuck on an elevator.
Okay. Yeah.
So I do both. He's fed and I'm fed before we go anywhere. And then I always bring food with me. But I also research, which is a huge gift we all have, in the sense where if you research beforehand, you're aware of what you can and can't have. So, for example, I know in Madison Square Garden, they have safe for celiac chicken fingers. That's something he'd eat.
Yeah.
So I can't swear that they're going to have them in stock, so I'll bring stuff, just to have. But I'm also well versed in wherever he's going.
Yeah, totally.
Preparation is huge.
Definitely, yeah. And is there anything else that you think about in terms of sending a child to school with celiac disease that you're aware of outside of having the 504 plan?
I think empowering your child. This all circles back to having him knowledgeable. Because it's so easy for kids to be like, just try, just eat it. Yeah. You're not going to get sick. And the best thing you can do is empower individuals who have celiac disease to know what is and isn't safe for them.
Yeah.
Because when I send him to school, I'm confident that he's got it.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. That's amazing, because it is so easy, with social pressure in school for
definitely
another kid to be like, oh, well, what do you mean? Your mom told you can't have
Correct.
this?
Correct.
but being able to like explain it to them or
just proudly say, I can't eat this. Doesn't make me feel good.
Exactly.
You know, is huge. And something else that comes up a lot in my life coaching is children who have celiac disease being around other children who have celiac disease and how everybody's protocols are different, right?
Yeah.
So some kids might eat out of a shared chip bowl, where in our household, that's not something that we deem safe for Jude.
Right, yeah.
But really making him knowledgeable that you do you. You don't judge others. Everyone does what makes them feel good and comfortable. You're not to judge what they do, but you're not to follow along what anyone else does.
Yeah, I love that mindset. And even as adults with celiac disease, I think that's important because, I mean, I just referenced the dietitian episode, but we were talking like even then it's like the oat conversation. Like,
right.
It is very individualized based on the person and their celiac disease.
For sure.
And the conversations that they're having with their doctors. It can be easy to be swayed or influenced by someone else or like have that social pressure of even as an adult, someone being like, okay, well, you're a little too intense about this celiac thing because my friend has celiac and she doesn't care about a shared fryer.
Right.
Versus, you know, just staying true to yourself and knowing what you want to do and the decisions that you want to make for yourself.
Definitely. I think if you're confident in what feels good for you, any judgment or comparison could roll off of you.
Totally, yeah.
Because it's, you know, you're doing what's best for you. Don't worry about everyone else. You do you, you know? And when you feel empowered to do you, your shoulders are up. You're much more confident. It doesn't matter what's going on around you.
Yeah, for sure. So give us a bit more like behind the scenes of like when you work with a client, what are like some different, you know, tools or approaches that you would have? Give us a behind the scenes of kind of, you know, different
Give
things.
you the work for free? No, I'm just kidding. So each program is individualized.
Okay.
I take sometimes people from right before they're getting that diagnosis through, and I can walk them through. I work truly as a life coach and a mentor.
Okay, yeah.
When you're life coaching, you don't delve into people's past, right? You're only worried about like goals in the future. You're not a social worker. You're not a psychologist. I'm also on top of that really a mentor. So sometimes I take people through the whole beginning 3 months of their child's diagnosis, how to change over the kitchen, how to tell their child, how to teach their child, how to build up to advocacy. Sometimes I work behind the scenes, like, for example, I'm thinking of one person, she'll laugh if she hears this, but she was of the mindset that she was going to keep the diagnosis, her daughter is around 8, very private. And call places, you know, in the other room so her daughter never felt the burden of the disease.
Okay, yeah.
And something we really worked on was your child is old enough that you don't have to hide it from her, and you also can't take it all away from her.
Yeah, totally.
So how can we integrate your systems that you have in place with bringing her into the mix now and walking her through the disease she has, which she knew she had, but she really hadn't, you know, how to use her voice.
Yeah.
And how do we transition that responsibility, some of it to her, so that when she goes off, she's empowered to do what she has to do. And we have a lot of conversations about what that looks like, what she feels in putting this on her daughter, how her daughter is interpreting the new set of responsibilities. And we work through that. Something that I find so valuable in my coaching is it's not just once a week, a session. We're texting constantly. And I think what people don't realize with celiac disease is you could always plan, and then your best plans are like haywire, especially with kids.
Right, yeah.
You know, how they respond, how you respond, how the restaurant responds, you know, and we text constantly just about how to be prepared, how to teach your child how to advocate for themselves, and really how much responsibility and pressure your child can handle.
Yeah,
right?
Totally.
There are sometimes I'm at a restaurant with Jude, and he's very good at advocating for himself, and I intercept because I could see that it's just, I don't want him frustrated, I don't want our meal ruined, and really just knowing when you can push and when you need to help.
Yeah, totally.
Is a huge thing we work on in my program.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I love, you know, just being able to communicate at different times about it because you never know what's going to pop up in a given week. So that's
really awesome. And we formed this environment where we're, you know, I stay in touch with everyone I work with, which is so nice. Having a community, as you know, because you have an amazing community, an amazing celiac group of friends, right?
Yeah.
Makes all the difference.
Totally, yeah. It really does. Just knowing someone else and going through the same things together, having someone to talk to about it, it really does make a big difference.
We were recently in a restaurant, right?
Yes.
And Jude left and he said, that was really cool. I think just knowing that he was around other individuals who had celiac disease and everyone understood what he feels or certain, you know, ways he has to operate, just being around like-minded people is a beautiful thing.
Totally. That just like understand, and it doesn't even mean that you're talking about celiac all the time, but you're just safe and comfortable, and you can bond about anything. It's great.
Yeah, I have that rapport with a lot of the people I work with where we go way beyond celiac, but them just knowing that they have someone who's always going to be there without judgment and just who has their best interests at heart, who can navigate this with them, not for them, but with them, I think is wonderful. And honestly, I really treasure the relationships I have with my clients.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So I know that you've been doing some work lately in terms of labeling in America. Do you want to talk more about that?
Sure, I would love to. So through the internet, we connected with another family, the Barry family, and their son Jax has been on a journey to advocate for food labeling laws in the United States for many, many years, and we were lucky enough to join them, and we are on a mission. Our goal is to have America, the same as 87 other countries around the world, like Europe and Spain, where they require the labeling of gluten on all packaged foods. When Jude was first diagnosed, I turned, you know, my passions into a charity, into life coaching, and something else I feel very, very important about is advocating for proper labeling laws in the United States, because every time Jude eats something that's not certified gluten-free, there's an additional worry that gluten is lurking behind the foods he's eating.
Right, yeah.
It just seems so simple that if 87 other countries can do it, why are we not requiring the labeling in the United States of America on gluten on all packaged foods?
Yeah.
So the Barry family, John and Jax and Jude and I, are in the throes of really, really trying to change the food labeling laws in the United States of America to match the 87 other countries, which would just be life-changing for every individual that has celiac disease.
Definitely. Yeah, that is so incredible. That's something that I've recently opened my eyes to, like the difference in labeling laws and how it really does affect the experience of just personally living with celiac disease and just knowing what you're eating and what's safe for you.
Definitely.
I recently did an episode with Riley, who's a grad student in London, and she lived in New York and then moved to London. And she was like, I actually have noticed such a difference in my quality of life because in London, the labeling laws are different. And we did like a whole deep dive on those differences. So it definitely is something that does make an impact. And it does seem so simple and so small. So it's like, okay, we should just do that so then we can have that change.
For sure. I mean, as safe as you can keep yourself and as safe as I could keep Jude, I could never really 100% guarantee, because things like artificial flavoring, you would never know that there's a hidden source of gluten in there. It's you're constantly worrying and second guessing and checking and looking at the manufacturer, and it seems so simple. Something that happened to Jude recently was he had a very bad stomach ache. There is not a lot of stomach medicines that are certified gluten-free.
Right, yeah.
It was devastating as a parent that I didn't have medicine to turn to.
Yeah.
I spent hours at our pharmacy. Thank God I have an amazing pharmacist who was researching for me safe medicines to give to Jude. This entire population in the United States of America, millions of individuals living with celiac disease who don't have proper food labeling requirements or medicine requirements.
Yeah. And with something like the medicine, if that was like required to be on the label, then that just would save you the hours of researching and time to try and figure out what are the actual ingredients in it and is gluten in there. So
it's huge. Yeah. It's something that the United States has to catch up with. They have to. The quality and the health of every individual living with celiac disease in the United States would be so much better if on medicines, but also on packaged foods, any derivative of gluten, it's mandatory labeling that the package has to state whether it contains gluten or not. Yeah. We're on a mission.
Yes. Well, I'm so excited that you're doing that, and thank you for the work you're doing with that, because that would be so exciting.
Let's hope that the Barrys and the Leibsons really, get this done.
Definitely.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to hear from Jude in a second, but I want to ask you one last question.
Yes.
So if a parent is listening right now and maybe they have like a new diagnosis, or maybe in the past couple of years their child was diagnosed with celiac disease and they're scared about their child's future, what would you tell them?
Don't be scared. Life is, I understand why you feel scared right now in the moment, but life with celiac disease can be absolutely beautiful. And it's not the trip you planned for, it's a different trip. But once you realize that the different trip is wonderful, your child's life can be amazing.
Yeah. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Jude, do you want to come say hello?
So I'm Jude. I'm 11 years old, and I have celiac disease.
Okay. And when were you diagnosed?
I was diagnosed in 2021.
Okay, cool. And what's your favorite gluten-free product?
I like the Promise bread.
Okay, yum. Nice.
Yeah, it's very good. And the gluten-free Cheez-Its I like too.
Yeah.
They're very good. I actually never had a Cheez-It in my life before it because I had a dairy allergy, and Cheez-Its have dairy in them. So that was actually my first time ever trying Cheez-Its.
Oh, wow. And did they meet your expectations?
Yes.
Good.
I love cheese. It's one of my favorite foods. So
yeah.
Yeah.
And have you met another friend that has celiac disease?
I have 2 friends that have celiac disease. And so it's just really nice to have people around you who have celiac disease.
So what if someone is listening to this podcast that has celiac disease and they're your age, but they live in like a different state in America and they don't know anyone that has celiac disease? What would you want them to know?
Don't be afraid. It's going to be okay. You'll live. You'll find things that you like, and hopefully you'll find a friend that has celiac disease. No one's going to hurt you for having celiac disease.
Thank you so much for being here. This was such a fun conversation. Where can everyone follow the Celiac Shift and work with you?
Well, thank you so much for having us. I think you're amazing. You're really incredible.
Aww.
You can follow me on 2 Instagram handles or Facebook. One is at the Celiac Shift, and 2 is at Community for Celiac. And both also have websites, www.theceliacshift.com and www.communityforceliac.com.
Amazing. And do you want to talk more about the charity?
Yes. So my partner, Marcy, and I, she's the co-founder in the charity, we started Community for Celiac. We really wanted to enhance the lives of individuals, pediatric individuals living with celiac disease on Long Island and throughout, the country. We make social events to gather individuals with celiac disease together. And something that our charity is actually launching soon is our ambassador program. So young individuals who have celiac disease can make their own fundraising pages. They can make their own fundraisers. They can meet other individuals who have celiac disease. And it's going to be a great, great program.
Yeah, that's incredible. Obviously, one, just being able to fundraise and also connect with other people that have celiac disease. That's amazing.
Yes, thank you. We're very proud of the work we've done with the charity.
Incredible. Well, thank you again so much for your time and for sharing your resources and knowledge with us. I know this episode is going to be so valuable to so many people.
Thank you. And
I'm
thank
so excited.
you. Really, thank you for having both of us. We appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, of
and we
course.
love your podcast.
Thank you. All right, thank you for listening. Don't forget to rate the show, leave us a 5-star review, send this episode to a friend, and I will catch you guys here next Wednesday. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Celiac Diaries podcast. I hope you're leaving with a tip, a story, or just a little inspiration to live your best life with celiac. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to follow the show, share it with a friend, or leave a review. I'll see you back here next Wednesday. And until then, stay well.